Lord, I pray for your provision, Lord, and your discernment, Lord. Lord, I pray that you will be with us now, Lord, and show us your power, Lord, your presence. Lord, I pray that you will speak to us, show us your ways, Lord, and draw us closer to you day by day, Lord. Lord, I thank you for your love and your mercy, Lord. Lord, I pray for your people, Lord, and what is going on right now in the world. Lord, I pray for guidance. We pray all these things in your name.
Wow. This thing is so bright.
I know.
That hardly can read anything on the screen. So, yeah. Okay, I think we're good. So, where were last time? We're in 3:9, am I right? So,
I think so. Yes, we're now in 3:9.
So most of this part is about Confucian's emphasis, and his comments on the what is called system of honor. You should say it, so that was established in the former dynasties and passed on through generations as a normal conduct, especially for the nobles in the ruling class. With it, it's a Chinese tradition that with those setups, they have a governing philosophy, a sense of hierarchy, but beyond that is a sense of education to produce a sense of order, sense of respect, sense of obedience as well. Not through the fear of the law, the punishment of the law, rather through understanding and appreciation of a social order. Social. You understand my point? So, because the desire or the vision, just like Moses' law have a spirit, have a vision, those laws desired actually for a righteous rule, so there's a word good king, wise king. The officials under his leadership will be the one who actually serve or be good shepherd to the people. So it's similar like the Moses law, or David's reign in the biblical context. It's very amazing how things are set up. So therefore, later days when just like time judges, breaking down the practice of Moses' law, making sense to you, later on, after Solomon's time happened, then the kings began to become a wayward. And right, some did a little bit revival here or there, but for the most part, the history of Israelites has been on down curve rather than a even curve or an uprising curve. Making sense to you, so ended up in Babylon exile, which fulfilled God's requirement in a sense ahead of time, said if you don't follow the commandments, there will be consequences for you. You're not going to even retain the land. You will go to exile. So, but also he promised going to show mercy. But the point I'm making is there is a culture that embodied in such construct. Am I making sense to you? So, at later days, the degradation of it is pretty saddening to anyone understand the vision of this culture and wanted to always to be educator on a enforcer on a builder of this culture. Making sense to you? So Confucius one that witness in his time that things begin just falling apart. One by one, scene by scene, block by block, things begin to be torn down and begin ruins, So here in different conversations, he was commenting with a very negative tune, because the thing he observed was very much is a bad instances whole thing is supposed to be. So in 3.9, I'm gonna read Chinese. Can you ready for the English translation? 子曰：下礼吾能言之，鸡不足正也；人礼吾能言之，宋不足正也；文献不足故也，故祖则吾能正之也。Let's see what's going on.
3.9 says, the master said, I could describe the ceremonies of the Xia dynasty, but she cannot sufficiently attest my words. I could describe the ceremonies of the Yin dynasty, but Sung cannot sufficiently attest my words. They cannot do so because of the insufficiency of their records and wise men. If those were sufficient, I could adduce them in support of my words.
Now here is interesting. We hold Confucius in his time. Actually, he was talking about he was very diligent of this Asian tradition. And because the old dynasty was one by one, one take over another, then now Xia is a big dynasty, a royal meaning kingdom in those times, and replaced by Yin. Yin Yeho means Zhou. There are 3 dynasties before this time. Confucius was in the middle of the decline of Zhou dynasty. Okay, so the Zhou dynasty. So in each dynasty, it's like there is somebody, from Texas begin to rule whole states of America. They're going to go to Texas, still remain the same people basically. They start the dynasty, right? So in region there's a little kingdom called the Ji. Is the first dynasty where they started. So then later on the dynasty broken down. The people are still there, try to maintain the remains and the practices of the former dynasty. Making sense to you? So their descendants still are noble aristocrats in a sense. They still try to maintain the former glory, maintain some practices. So Confucius, the same is Yin, a second dynasty, and Song is that their territory, their homeland is making sense to you? So what it did Confucius' time, he would walk everywhere, wherever he can want to learn a subject. He'd go to the place, talk to people, he learn all the books he can glean. Again, I told you those times don't have print books. What material they write on?
Scroll.
Bamboos, right? So in the Middle East, maybe screw, Palestinian bamboo screw, but in China actually inscribed on bamboos, so and he would use there's a lot of story to it, but it's very hard to have reading materials, reading record passed on so it's very hard to glean those materials, to get access to those materials. So what he does, he will go to the local people to try to see people who know knowledgeable of those things, so when he found one, he will stay with them, learn as long as he can, as much as he can. So he traveled all around when he was young for nothing, just to learn. His family was not well to do, so you can imagine all the learning process is pretty difficult. Today we have a school system, we have a ready access to the phone, in your palms, every information. But in those days, you can imagine there's no such a thing, So you found someone educated, that's very hard already. So you found the educated one actually inside or have record the former things, that it's very hard, right? So he was talking. Then he was evidently the topic we're talking about this set of ceremonies, but let's just use another word called system honor. Whether it's being honored, what is it called, the gods or ancestry, but it's way to impute a cultural norm, basically, right? So, and so he goes there, try to recover what was lost, and oftentimes, what have you, those things are dissipated. We're hard to prove what he actually knows. So making sense to you. So, And also I think he seems to be a little bit enlightened about those things, have a fuller background of what's going on, fuller context what's going on. So he will teach those things, and just he was talking the word hard to prove those things actually what it is. So but he has confidence with his knowledge that if all those materials with the record or the or the go to the people who's on site study, maybe it's not sufficient to prove what I taught, but I believe everything that eventually gets together is able to prove what he's been teaching. Making sense to you? So he has a super strong. He was well educated, well knowledgeable what he was talking about. So then what is system? It's like a Moses' law. It's very hard to understand the preciousness of Moses' law being preserved through the ages, through generations, uninterrupted. In ancient times, that is not the picture. So have you heard of the Dead Sea Scroll a little bit? Yeah, what happened to the Dead Sea Scroll?
I know that they're the basis of a lot of what is written in the New Testament. I don't know much about how those were written or found.
Dead Sea Scroll was a sect in the time prior to Jesus, I believe. But at that time, the Roman Empire began to invade Palestinian, that the time of the Jewish people. And they begin to, there are different dynasts going on. They did the honor and also begin to corrupt the weeds from the ancestors, right? So, for example, they would put an idol in the temple. Later on, they even burn down Jerusalem, burn down temple, as Jesus prophesied. So there are people, the sect recognize that their people is going to suffer maybe a more desperate, more damaging fate than the time of Babylonian. And they remember the former day when Babylonian Nebuchadnezzar came around, he looted everything. The ark was lost, all kind of things are lost, right? So being burned down or looted. So this group of people said we need to preserve the most important thing in our culture, which is the Bible. So they begin to seal the scrolls into different jars or whatever, try to seal off. So in the after, I think around when Egypt was established shortly after, I think shortly after Second World War it began. So a shepherd boy began discovering in a cave, wow, there are some jars and there's a scroll in it. So they found out those scrolls are those sects preserved. So each scroll right now much worth a lot because of the architectural value. So that scroll is the most contain the most ancient, if you will, the original text of the Bible, in Old Testament. So it's a tremendous value in a sense, to prove, for example, the word is good. Now, what I try to say to you is that modern day we don't appreciate the original, the text that passed on in ancient times. We don't know how hard it was preserved. So we treat it with such casualness, So on my head I can see everything in the Bible. What the value of it? You don't understand. In Asian culture, however, that becomes the national treasure. Everybody have a glimpse of it. That's national treasure. So that's why we're selected ones was able to have scroll and able to teach on the scroll. So making sense to you guys? I'll just try to give you some context in ancient times how knowledge were precious. Serious education were precious. That being said, the similar contrast is today. Let's see the contrast here. In those times, the scarce of information knowledge make the education precious. What about today? What the contrast would be? In the sea of knowledge information, what difficulty we facing now? Almost the opposite, when I think about it. But I want you to expand on that.
Well, in terms of what information is available and how it lasts, it seems like one major problem we face today is what can be considered valid information and what's true information.
Yeah. So many opinions, so many ideas, so many things to absorb, to learn. You can literally lose very quickly.
Yeah.
So what is important? What is valuable? What is really right, truthful? It's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Elijah, make any sense here? Yeah. Well, I like your hairstyle. Pretty good. The song's still getting our eyes, huh? Yeah. Well, let's move on with the 3.10. 子曰：弟自己观而往者，无不与观之也。Let's see the translation.
The master said, at the great sacrifice, after the pouring out of the libation, I have no wish to look on.
Yeah. Well, this is very simple. Basically, he saw a great national ceremony. I think it's ancestral worship, all things combined. It's one of the great occasions, so. And everything is at least four of the themes, out of whack in a sense. He saw the first thing is basically offering, the drink offerings. He said, it's all wrong, basically. So he said, I don't want to watch it anymore. So Confucius is a very moderate person, very, very tempered and right person. So why is he sharp about these things? Think about the motive. Why it upset him so much that he don't have any patience with it? I mean, it's abuse ceremony. Everybody participating. He said, I don't want even to be a part of it. I want to walk away from it. So we're adamant in his attitudes, and so why? What the biblical picture of the same kind of reaction will look like?
I guess it might have been something we actually discussed fairly recently concerning the fact that he was seeing a very wealthy man with all of his fancy
clothes.
Yeah, and his amusements basically. If he had this orchestra or these dancing people, I forget exactly. It's another one of the earlier.
Oh yes.
And then
he was not happy about that.
The biblical parallel that we made was like, was it King Uzziah?
Yeah, King Uzziah. Being violating the things that not supposed to be his portion. Be his boundary. Out his boundary line in a sense. Right. Now, what example I'm thinking about is Jesus go to the temple scene.
And that, yeah,
people doing the wrong thing, so he was upset, so.
Yep.
My father's house is house of prayer. You got me a little band robber, so he don't have any patience about it, so, and I grew up with it, so, but
it's a much clearer example.
I mean, making sense here, so 3:11. 或问弟子说，子曰：不知也。知其说者，子于天下也。其如是主思乎？子其长。Okay, let's do the translation. It's hard even in classical Chinese.
3.11 says, someone asked the meaning of the great sacrifice. The master said, I do not know. He who knew its meaning would find it as easy to govern the kingdom as to look on this, pointing to his palm.
So what are you thinking before I comment on it? Elijah, what are you thinking about this one? Any hints? Okay, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm somewhat confused as to what he refers to by mentioning the great
The great
sacrifice.
ceremony is against national ceremony.
This is sacrifice in the translation. Is
The
it?
same thing. So
Okay,
it's doing the same
Okay,
thing.
okay.
It's like they have preschool. They do all kind of things like
Right.
Asian Israelite does. So. Normally, it means to honor that they were given authority to rule, given blessing to
Yeah.
for life, for endowment in a sense. So, yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't have a particularly clear interpretation of it. What I do see is that someone as wise as Confucius himself to say that he doesn't know
Yeah.
is, I think, an interesting point. And then he also says, he who knew its meaning, so someone who does know the true meaning of of what this great sacrifice or ceremony
Yeah.
is, would find it as easy to govern the kingdom, which is, considering, not a particularly easy thing,
No, it's not.
as to look on this. And so
Yes.
obviously a very easy thing to do, just look on your palm.
Yes.
And so
yes.
very obviously it's a very, I guess the best words I can use is valuable but hidden secret in a way.
That's right. I think you got the essence of it.
But like as to what that truly means, I don't really
You don't
know.
really know, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's give a simple example you guys might be familiar with. Okay, you go to, maybe not a university. Right? Let's say you go to you guys homeschool. It's hard to borrow the example. I don't want to use that to say that your life experience is limited. But I
Sure.
went to school, and right,
Yeah.
I went to different schools, and right, when I was your age, I mean, it's supposed to be high school, whatever, and
Right.
right. So now, then I have a teacher in English class or different classes. Imagine he's very good at his topic, and right. So,
Mhm.
and I beat my text. I'm number one. Actually, I was number one. So, so just teasing Elijah a little bit. So now, and then you have all the rules, all the things set up, all the different subjects set up, different teachers set up. So you go to the text. The whole thing set up for operating a school, and right, the rules. There might be yearly to give ceremony. This is the prize you win. This is a that's my point. We have a ceremony. People win different prizes or whatever. So they gather souls and students around. Like, here's the first prize for so something of that nature. Just imagine those things. Now, when somebody asks around, why you guys set different prizes, a certificate, of honor, and well, if I'm the best student, I got all the prize in my hand. Or in this case, maybe Confucius is one of the teachers. He actually have the right to give you the certificate for honor, right? So, to give the prize. He is participating. But he asked him, do you know why this was set up? What is it for? And how the school came around, how this has become a tradition for all the schools in the world. What do you think his perspective will be? Concerning education, why you educate young people using this kind of setups? Is somebody asking? Why you have these things going on? It's like you're watching a ceremony going on, give you different certificate or different honor, right? So, and I ask Confucius, hey, why you give that student an honor? So what is it for? What do you think? He would say, I don't really know. I know how to give this prize according to the system, so
Mm-hmm.
but how this came around, how profound this applied to all the educations of young people as a systematic set up, the purpose, the uses for it. That's a very, very sophisticated topic, so making sense here? Even I fully able to appraise a student's performance in the system and give him a prize, right? So now, in this light, I want to remind you, when in the beginning we're talking about real education is not about acquiring knowledge. not just understand the matter, but really one, they're able to gain wisdom in the from a sphere of personal education, personal discipline, or personal character training to apply into relational dynamics in different spheres, from family, to community, then to national life. And in this, even the whole world is able to have a grasp how to appraise righteousness, how to maintain and produce peace, am I, in the whole world. That's a very, very far-fetching, and it's like, are you kidding me? Who can do that, right? So, but interesting enough, that's exactly the biblical template for us, and right, what the Lord Jesus Christ told his sons, what God wanted his son to do. Here is in line with this. Now imagine, in the biblical context, they give the law. God gave Moses the law, and then with it to set up the whole ceremony of sacrifices, worship, and right, circling around the tabernacle. Make it sense to you? So, you guys already tired?
Oh, no, that's good.
You hear me out? Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? The parable, right? It's a national culture and a government center.
Yeah.
Amen. It's a ruling order there, right? Embodied. The culture, there's order, there's why the thing is done. So last time we mentioned in other places in Malachi, speaking about the priest supposed to teach people of a life and of peace, am I right? This covenant peace, am I right? So make sense here? They're supposed to maintain justice, teach righteousness, am I right? And produce peace in the midst of a community or human relationships, am I right? Under the care. Making sense here? So yeah. Now this is the same thing. Confucius understand this whole ceremony who set it up and intended to maintain it was not just doing a simple ceremony. They were actually using it as something set up to build a system of a government or worship, a culture center, right? So making sense to you? To produce a sense of what is proper, what is improper, what is honorable, what is inhonorable, what is right or wrong, So making sense to you? And therefore, they pay extreme attention, even meticulously, like that it was done in the temple worship, am I right? So that nobody can take things lightly of this. Everybody had done in Moses with the proper attitudes and done in the proper way. Attitudes not enough. He had to do it according to the prescribed ways. Making sense here. To maintain a solemnity, maintain a seriousness, maintain a sense of awe and fear. It's not just to make people dumb or try to oppress people, rather instill a sense of reverence, a sense of honor as a culture enforcement. Am I right? Use the word enforcement being not right, culture impact. You understand my point? So last time we was talking about, if you want to be a leader, you better not talk very casually. You can't carry yourself like a man just without any restraint, foolishly in a sense. You got to be composed, you got to be aware the way you talk, the way you carry yourself matters, and right, to the position, to the role you're playing. That's not means you're pretending. It's only that the office and yourself and you discipline yourself to fit in the office, and right, that it demands a certain solemnity, So a teacher cannot speak of profanity before young students. It's the rule of some is you're gonna get fired. I'm sorry, you're a bad teacher to begin with. Making sense here, So there is a sense of honor within the profession. Making sense here, So you might be a very bad guy. In any other contest, he can relax or being bad. But in this occasion, in being a teacher, being in that capacity, you do that. There will be punishments, there are consequences, So making sense here. So now, is it bad? The rules bad or necessary? Right?
Yep.
If a good teacher, he knows that is what he's supposed to be, he will aspire in everywhere, in every occasion, don't acting on becoming it because he knows he's a teacher, so he's not going to be have a double life in a sense, making sense to you, so he who is making sense to you, so that's not a restriction or requirements. It's the way who is, making sense to you. And it's not a restriction, it's not an oppressive element in his life. It's just a free expression. You like it. I want everybody to be here right, so I teach everybody to be here right. I'm so happy I got this tool, this career in my hand, that I can do what I want to accomplish with it. That's a totally different way to treat one's requirement, one's standard. So, now what am I saying? In all this compares together, there is an essence, there is an intent, there's a purpose to set us. And so Confucius said, I don't really understand the guy who he set up, why he doing it, why he arranged all these things together. But I believe this man who set it up, he knows what he's doing in terms of governing the people. It's to him, all these things as complete and meticulous is. For outsiders, there's so much to learn, so much ceremony and details going on. But to him, it's like he's just looking at his fingers. He uses it to govern the nation. It's nothing complete for him. Ah. Do you think God wants to give man complicated systems to worship him? Is that what he intended? Or he wants someone enlightened to understand the law? Go ahead. You have some smiling comments.
It just reminds me of the old saying, like, he knows it as well as the back of his hand.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, what you're saying, too, reminds me of something that you actually sent out an email. One of Oswald Chambers' readings is one of the main points referred in this reading. I forget the title of it now, but I think it's called Grasp Without Reach or something.
Okay.
But one of the main points he made was the distinction between an idea and a vision.
Yeah.
The idea being something
That's the reason why I read that. Yeah,
something that you may or may not have as morally accepted in your mind. That's the idea.
Repeat. I didn't grasp that.
So the idea is something. Well, the explanation of the vision is what makes the true distinction. But idea is what you'd think it is, which is, despite whether it's true or not, it still exists as an idea.
Like an opinion.
So whether or not you've morally accepted this idea, it's still an idea.
Okay.
So, but then a vision is something that you know is right and true and is practiced. That's the main distinction. Is that a vision is something that not only remains in the head, but is actualized in practice.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah, let's ask Elijah, do you understand the difference? No necessary?
Yeah, a little bit.
Go ahead.
Was he talking about a vision or something?
Idea and the vision. What the difference between idea and vision?
Well, idea seems to be more of something that kind of comes up in your mind of your own...
Yes.
Of your own thought train, but a vision kind of seems something given from God to you that doesn't really just come from your mind, I guess.
The vision here is not what we talk about the vision or gifts. He was talking about explain your English much eloquent than me. So.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Well, it's just an Oswald Chambers reading.
You might read that.
Yeah, I recommend. We have plenty of books at our house. You should read that every day. It's devotional.
Go through that with him, this particular one, to see the difference. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well,
sorry to interrupt you.
And what Chambers was conveying in this particular writing, or in today's writing actually, he's saying that there's a very strong and important difference between an idea, which is kind of like you were saying, is just something that is formulated within the mind as whether or not it's morally acceptable or even true, it still exists as an idea or as a thought.
Yeah.
But then a vision is something that, based off of its validity, or even its righteousness, it is therefore practiced as something that is true. And so the real distinction between both of them is that the first one, the idea is not practiced, but the vision is. And so one is imaginary in a sense, and the other one is actualized, or what's the other word? It's put into reality. And so I think he applied that into how we view our spiritual life and walk with the Lord. Is it just something that we have in our heads as something, even that which we know that the Lord has told us to do? Is that something that we just have as an idea? Is the voice and the word of the Lord an idea in this sense, or in this framework he just set? Or is it a vision?
It's a vision.
It's something that we're actually practicing and not just knowing about.
Interesting. In that kind of context, then...
It reminds me of how a culture is practiced and maintained, too.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, expound it.
I just think...
I wonder why the correlation there, so...
Well, we have today, again, having so much knowledge about very many different things, we are aware of the aspects of certain cultures, and even that which we define ourselves as.
Yes.
We can define ourselves of building and cultivating a culture of the house of God in our midst.
Yeah.
But is that something that is just often spoken and described or discussed, or is it something that's practiced?
Yes.
Which is
huge
far
difference,
more important.
right?
Yeah.
Huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Seems like a thing that we often say, but it's such an important thing. It comes up in like almost every topic.
Yeah.
It can be applied in very different
It's
different
very
ways.
interesting. I was reading recently picked up a book called Republicanism of American Founding, talking about culture transition was never, basically sudden and
Right.
just happened, overnight in a sense. It has to take a period of time
For
for
sure,
things to change. So, and therefore the vision, without vision, God's people perish. Maybe a vision is not just hey, someday we're gonna get the land, So it's rather what kind of people you will be. With that in mind, you are chosen people, you are royal priesthood, So,
Yep.
and that's a different culture. So, that's interesting. I'm not sure Elijah get what I said or not. No, I just try to tease you to loop you in the conversation. That's all. Okay, so, in that regard, Elijah, pray for us. Yeah.
Father, we love you, Lord. I thank you for, Lord, all you've taught us, Lord. Lord, I pray that we will not forget your principles, Lord, in life, Lord, that we must follow. Lord, I pray that our hearts and minds would be the right place for you. Lord, I pray that you would draw us closer to you, Lord. Lord, I pray